Hello and welcome to another episode of All Elite Arcade. It is episode 101. And if you are watching the video format, which is on youtube.com/AEW Games, you might be seeing our pixelated faces. We're both traveling currently. I am out in Canada. Chugs is out in his family home. Our internets are not at its strongest, but that does not mean we cannot talk video games because we've been playing a bunch of them. Chugs, I think I played less than you this week. Do you mind if I get started?
Oh, please. I'd love to hear about what you played this week.
So much like last week, last week I talked about finishing Resident Evil. I talked about playing Sectorium, Eugenics, Pokopia. This week is no different. I did not go back into Resident Evil. Now that I've cleared it, I think I will do another run to try and do a harder difficulty probably in the next coming weeks. But at this very moment, my main focus above everything else is this new Pokemon Pokopia game because it is incredible. I have just been... I don't know about you, how addicted you are to this right now, but I can't stop playing it. I think I have finished most of the environments minus one. I think there are credits to see very, very soon. And then I also think post-credits, I'm going to keep going because I love rebuilding these cities. I love taking tiles out and rebuilding the roads. I love using like the train tracks now to make like little roller coasters throughout my city. I love building gardens and stuff. I think this is the best Pokemon side game to ever come out by a long shot. It's actually kind of reinvigorating my love for Pokemon itself. It makes me want to jump into X and Y, which I did not play. Or wait, X and Y or Y and Z?
ZA.
ZA, okay, not even close.
ZA. Is that what you're thinking of? Okay.
Yes,
okay.
I wasn't even close. But it makes me want to jump back into those old video games and into the newer stuff. And also it makes me very excited for the next generation of Pokemon games because this game has got me. It's got me. I hate to say it this way. It's got me by the balls. I've cannot stop playing it. I actually did not bring it with me. I'm currently in travels to Canada. I'm off to Japan. I didn't bring it with me.
Yes.
I brought my Steam Deck because I know that if I bring it with me, I will play nothing else but it. So I'm actually giving myself a little bit of space and giving me the opportunity to jump into some other stuff while I'm out here. But I know you've been playing it as well, but it's incredible how unique this game feels, even though it is a Animal Crossing style game. That something about the mechanics of the habitats and the voxel structures of the cities has really got a hold on me, and I am just absolutely in love with this game.
Uno, I'm ashamed to say this, but actually, since we last talked, I have not played any more of Pokemon Pokopia, and one of the reasons is because there were some other games that I wanted to focus on playing this week, because I know from the little bit that I played, I'm going to be just like you. I'm going to get completely addicted. And not only has the game, from the few hours that I played, made me like more into Pokemon, but again, that's a genre I've never really gotten or done a deep dive into an Animal Crossing-esque game. And Pokemon Pokopia is going to be the one to do it. So that's awesome that even after all those hours being so close to credits, that you still love it just as much, because what a charming video game. And I think there's a very solid argument to be made that it is the best Pokemon spin-off game ever. Mm-hmm. I mean, people are just continuing to rave about it. I love it. And I know you love it. So that's so awesome. You got to put so much time into it.
Yeah, I'm very excited at the prospect of what they might do with it in the future as well, because they haven't, we talked about this before because we were talking about the Pokemon 30th anniversary, but there's, 1,100 Pokemon out there. I don't think this game has all 1,100, so that alone is an easy, progression in this game. You could add extra Pokemon, extra habitats to play with it. There are new environments you could probably easily add to this. There are probably going to be events around holidays, and probably events around big Pokemon games. I'm sure when one of the next Pokemon games comes out, they'll probably make a literal event in this to support those games. So I'm very excited. And also at the prospect, we were going to talk about this in the news pieces, but I might as well mention this. This is by far the fastest selling Pokemon game out of the regular generation Pokemon games. It is selling incredibly well. It's selling Switch 2s as well, which is something we predicted. This is the strongest game to come out since Donkey Kong. It's overall, I cannot say good enough things about it. My only issue is what will be a month from now once I've like really decimated all of the content that's in there. What will it look like? But I believe, if anything, if Pokemon Pocket Trading Game is any indication, I feel like they will support this. And on top of that, this is such a fast selling game and such a, it's a Nintendo IP. I cannot believe a future where they don't support it, considering how much it's sold. So I'm very excited for the future of this game. I'm very excited for my next month of playing it, especially when I come back from Japan. I will decimate every hour I can of that video game when I get back. But it's been an incredible game, and it's been the thing I've been playing nonstop most of the week. But unfortunately, for as much time as I put into that, I did not put a lot of time into anything else. But that's where you come in, Chugs, because you actually did play a lot of video games, unlike me.
Yes, I did get a fair amount of games being played. A lot of these are games, actually, some very briefly, but games that I've talked about before. But there was a new service that I got to try that I'm really excited to talk about. But I did just want to mention, too, going off of what you were saying one more time about Pokopia, and I know you've mentioned this, but it is really cool that they're adding these special events that seems like they're going to consistently do. And I know with some of these special events, there'll be a week window where you can only get those Pokemon. So like if you miss it, you won't have the chance to get them again. Mm-hmm. So that is a very intriguing way to make sure that you stay involved. It's like me, like you said, with Pokemon TCG Pocket, of certain promo cards that are only available for a short time. So again, you talking about it has me excited to jump back in at some point. But as far as what I played, I did not get the chance to continue with any more Pokemon Pokopia. But I did, of course, continue my morning routine of continuing Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket. Again, no real updates other than the fact that, once again, Pokemon TCG Pocket has added 5 new promo cards. These updates keep rolling in even more in this second season as opposed to the first season. The first season, there was a lot of content. The second one, even more. But of course, I must show my new card this week, which I actually got not from a pack, but in a Wonder Pick, where, once again, a Wonder Pick is another player in the game, has 5 cards. You have to randomly pick one and hope that you get the rare one. And I got very lucky and got this beautiful 2-star card right here. Beautiful card. So that was my Pokemon TCG Pocket card of the week for anyone who's watching the pixelated video format.
We're gonna have to superimpose a picture of that one.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. But on the streaming front, I of course have been continuing the newest Resident Evil title, Resident Evil Requiem, which has been mind-blowingly incredible. Again, I've said before, so I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but I had really high expectations coming into this game. And it feels like every single stream, I'm falling in love with this game more and more and more. I'm going to talk very generally because I know the game is fairly new, so I don't want to spoil anything. I've done a really, really good job so far of avoiding spoilers. So I won't go into too much detail on stuff, but I know that some things based on trailers, people have kind of understood or know is coming and things like that. But I finished a really, really big portion of the Grace storyline, which again was absolutely incredible. The Grace sections in this game, once again, are some of the most horrifying Resident Evil content I've ever experienced. The whole culmination and climax for this moment with Grace is incredible, with a very cool boss fight scenario, if you will, which was a ton of fun. Mm-hmm. Again, if I had a heart rate monitor on when I was streaming this, my heart rate would have been just pounding out of my chest. It was like such an intense moment within the game. And then on top of that, I won't go into any detail here, but there were some massive massive story implications that happened at least what seems to be final moment within this story of Grace. I'm sure I'm going to see her again at some point, but right now it very much feels like there was a big majority section I played with Grace, and now it feels like there's going to be a big majority section that I play with Leon, which is very, very cool. And in addition to getting some really, really big story moments in there, jumping in to Leon Kennedy and getting to go through, because so minor spoilers here, but there was a point where I got very light spoilers, but this moment just gave me chills like all through my body. Is you play this section as Grace, this incredible boss fight, absolutely horrifying, some really, really big, cool story stuff. You go back to Leon, and then you see Leon driving his car, and he's just driving through an area, and all of a sudden you see that rundown gas station that was at the very start of Resident Evil 2 Remake. It's just completely destroyed. And Resident Evil fans, they start to put two and two together, and you're going, oh my God, he's going back into Raccoon City.
Yep.
And there's this shot where Leon's car, his Porsche, is driving, and the camera really, really zooms out, and you see just a disheveled Raccoon City, and just absolute cinema. It says Leon Raccoon City in huge letters with a big sound effect, which was really cool. I was like, this game is just so incredible. So right now I'm fairly early in the Leon section of the game, which once again is incredibly different from the Grace section, but in a really, really cool way. And dude, these action sequences in RE9 with Leon are some of the best in the series.
Oh, so good.
But between all the different weapons that Leon can get, all the different upgrades that Leon can get, so many different callbacks to so many cool Resident Evil moments within this game. This voice acting, the action sequences, the horror sequences, like this. I think this game already is in my top 3 Resident Evils of all time. I think now it's top 2. By the time I'm done with this, it might be my favorite. I am just loving Resident Evil Requiem so much. So once again, I am continuing to stream it. It's my very first playthrough on twitch.tv/thechugs. It says I'm a little over halfway through the game. I'm taking my sweet time playing this masterpiece of a Resident Evil title. So again, Resident Evil Requiem is just, it's unreal. I can't wait to talk about it more. But also, again, so one of the reasons I did not continue with Pokemon Pokopia this week is, of course, I've said that my goal in 2026 is to finish a lot of games that I've started, beat more games this year, and I'm on track to doing pretty well. So I beat 3 games in January, 3 in February, and I beat 2 now in March. So this is my second game that I beat this month, my 8th game that I've beaten in 2026. And that, speaking of horror titles, is another horror title that I spoke very highly of last year, that being Silent Hill F, the newest Silent Hill title. And man, after finishing this game and taking my time to go and read through all the lore and all the notes that you can collect and experiencing all the different areas and the boss fights, Resident Evil has been back. Silent Hill is back too. It's in the process of just between Silent Hill 2 Remake, between Silent Hill F, Silent Hill Townfall on the way. I loved Silent Hill F so much. I think the way that Silent Hill tells its psychological horror stories is my personal favorite way that they do tell those stories. I think Hinako is a very, very interesting character. I think the way they go about slowly drip feeding you the lore of what is actually going on within this game is so beyond brilliant. There are so many cool shots and so many cool moments that are kind of explaining what really is happening with this story, and it's brilliantly done. Again, I think Silent Hill 2 is definitely my favorite Silent Hill story, but Silent Hill F is second place for me. I loved this story so much. And in addition to that, a couple of the areas are just really, really stick out to me as being so well done, like such good survival horror, psychological horror scenarios, where there's a section with Hinako where you're going through a school, and that maze is just so incredibly well built. Then there's another phase where you're going through her house, and that's another one that is just so classic, psychological, survival horror that is done so well with item collections and puzzle solving and really, really creepy monsters in the game. Man, I adored that game. Easily one of my favorite psychological horror games I've ever played. Probably my second favorite Silent Hill that I've ever played. So very happy to finally roll credits on Silent Hill F. Just an incredible, incredible title. If you like survival horror, if you like Resident Evil, if you like Silent Hill and you've not had the chance to play Silent Hill F yet, definitely play it. But also a warning, not a spoiler warning, but a warning in general. This game is incredibly dark.
Yes.
A very, very dark game. So that's a warning, and they give you a warning before the game starts, which is very typical Silent Hill. God, it's masterfully done. It's masterfully done.
Can I ask you a question about it? Did you complete it once, or did you complete it the multiple to get the credits?
Oh, I just completed it once.
Okay. Okay.
But I do know that within this game, I'm actually glad you brought that up. So within this game too, and this was so risky by the developers, but if you want to truly understand the entire story, I mean, you could definitely somewhat kind of connect the dots after finishing it once. But if you do want to see like the true story and actually how everything unfolds in every piece of lore, like you said, Uno, you do have to finish the game multiple times, which again was such a risky move by the developers to say, hey, if you want to experience our full story, you have to beat this game multiple times. And I love that they did that because I definitely at some point will go through and get some more endings because I really enjoyed playing the game as well. It was a lot of fun. I like the different upgrades that you can get. There's different talismans. They're not called talismans, but there's different talismans that you can get to like increase your health, your stamina, all that stuff. But yeah, I did not go through with all the endings, but I'm very excited to do it at some point. So, and I love that the devs did that. I think that was such a creative way to go about telling their story. But
my understanding is that the further you go into the endings, and it's dark on one ending, but it supposedly only gets darker and more twisted the more endings you get through. I've always been curious because I have yet to complete the game, mostly because I keep getting freaked out. But I'm very curious to see what the last bits of that is like.
Yeah, it's a horrifying Silent Hill game. And one more thing I wanted to mention is that part of the reason that I love Silent Hill 2 so much is like there's a reason for everything in that game. Every single monster design, every single character that you interact with, every single environment has like either a dual meaning or a deep-rooted meaning within James's story, which I love and appreciate so much. I love that attention to detail. I love that ambiguity and things like that. Silent Hill F is the same way. Every single monster has a very specific reason. Every single area, same exact thing. So I love when Silent Hill games do that. I feel like they do it better than anyone else when it comes to horror. And also, there's a journal that you carry, which in addition to that having a ton of lore, also explaining Hinako's relationship with her mother, her father, her friends, and things like that, the monsters themselves. The art style of the journal is so cool. It's like this hand-drawn, handwritten journal. The sound of the pages turning is really cool. There's so many things about Silent Hill F that I really like. So incredible horror title. And then just one more thing that I wanted to talk about today. And actually, it's more so talking about this service more than the actual game that I played. But lately, I've mentioned this before, is I love being able to be home and game down in my game room. Again, I was able to finish Silent Hill F in my game room and things like that. But lately I've noticed between sometimes having a puppy who is not quite at the point yet of being down in the game room, and then also when I'm with family or I'm not at my house, I've been really utilizing cloud streaming more often, which up until recently I had very little experience with. But I've recently finished Doom: The Dark Ages on my Xbox Ally X through Xbox Cloud Gaming. It ran incredibly well. Also played a lot of Silent Hill F on my PS Portal through the PlayStation Cloud streaming with PS Plus Ultimate, which was, PS Plus Premium is what it's called. And that worked incredibly well and ran great. So I've been meaning to be able to get back into some of my PC games with my desktop at home. And one of the games I wanted to jump back into was Borderlands 4. I am a huge Borderlands fan. I got the chance to play the first 3 hours with some family, some cousins, and my brother, and I had such a good time with it. But I've not had the chance to play a bunch of Borderlands 4, so I thought that's going to be the next one that I jump into because, again, I love the Borderlands games. Long story short, Borderlands 4 is not well optimized for the Steam Deck OLED, for the Xbox Ally X. Running it natively on a handheld. Lots of times you read reports of it getting 20 to 30 FPS. You have to have the graphics settings to the absolute lowest setting. And I thought there's a streaming service for Xbox games. There's a streaming service for PlayStation games. I wonder if there's a streaming service for PC games. And I had remembered, I think there's this thing called GeForce Now that you can use. So I did a little bit of research, and GeForce Now, you're able to play thousands of your PC games. There are 3 different tiers. There's the free tier, the premium tier, and the ultimate tier. And that determines a lot of different factors. Not only does it determine the length that you're able to play these gaming sessions, but also the size of the library. And then most importantly, it determines what type of PC you are cloud streaming from. Mm-hmm. So I can't remember what the free tier is from, but the premium tier is like a 3080 PC, and the ultimate tier is anywhere from a 4080 to a 5080. So hypothetically, here's the wild thing. You can, if you do the ultimate tier, you could cloud stream up to 5K and up to 360 hertz, which is unreal. Now, you can't do 5K 360 at the same time, but you could do 4K 120 hertz. You could do 1080p 360 hertz. I think 1440 240 hertz. Mm-hmm. It's just treated like it's a genuinely powerful PC. And what I wanted to do is I decided to try this GeForce Now with my Steam Deck OLED, because the Steam Deck OLED, I love the OLED screen. I was like, I'm going to try Borderlands 4 on my Steam Deck OLED. It was so easy to download the GeForce Now app. It was so easy to get everything all set up. I played an hour and a half of Borderlands 4. Dude, it ran at maximum graphics settings. I mean, again, the Steam Deck OLED itself is only 800p, I believe, but with the OLED screen, it had 90 hertz, which is the maximum frame rate on a Steam Deck OLED. It had 0 hiccups. It worked so smooth, so incredibly well. The Steam Deck is barely working hard because it's all happening through the cloud. So this cloud streaming stuff has been such a game changer, not only for when I'm not home, for scenarios. If I want to play something in handheld mode and maybe it's really difficult for that to run natively on the handheld, I can now just cloud stream it with GeForce Now. So that service is just absolutely incredible when you're in a situation where you can't play a game natively. And then just very quickly on Borderlands 4, once again, I think the story is going to be really, really good. I love the open world environment of Borderlands 4. I think that's really cool. Obviously, there are billions of guns that you can collect in this game. Still very, very early. So there is an option as well. And I just wanted to mention this quickly, but this is pretty cool. Because I had played with family, there were a bunch of main missions that I had already done. And in Borderlands 4, I started back where I got through the tutorial before I started playing with my family members. So at first I thought I had lost my progress. But it gives you the option to skip all the missions you did and then just start off where you ended up when you were playing in somebody else's gaming session, which is really, really cool. Now, I did decide, because I wasn't that far, I was only a couple hours in, I did decide that I wanted to play through again some of those main missions, not only for certain unlockables, but also for experience points, also for some more loot drops, also to make sure my map stayed opened up. But I love that that feature is there, that you're able to so easily. So if I played for 10 hours with friends of mine in another session and I started up and I was 10 hours behind, I could, with a click of a button, just get back to where I was, which I think is a really cool quality of life feature for Borderlands 4. But yeah, Borderlands 4 has been a very, very fun game. I'm excited to jump into it some more. I know it's a longer open world game, but again, I have played through all the Borderlands games, so I'm excited to play through this one as well. And the fact that it's now possible to play in handheld mode as smoothly as it is with GeForce Now is pretty incredible. So very excited I got to try that service, and very excited I got to jump back into to Borderlands 4. So it was a good week, man.
I'm hearing you talk about the GeForce Now and the cloud streaming. I'm still kind of behind on the cloud streaming stuff. I have definitely used it, but it is not something that I trusted because my use of it was maybe 3-4 years ago when I think it was at its, like, I wouldn't say its weakest. It's definitely been around for a little bit of time, but it wasn't at the strength that it is now. There's definitely a push forward for cloud gaming in general. And I think we're now reaching that. The fact that you could do 120 hertz or that you could do full 4K in cloud is incredible. And the thing that like we didn't even discuss is just it saves so much battery from your device doing this too, because it's using none of your hardware. You were just streaming. So it is as little impact on your CPU as humanly possible, which is incredible of a thought.
Yes, yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because, with Borderlands 4 on the Steam Deck OLED, in that scenario, 90 hertz, very high settings, all that stuff, unplugged, my Steam Deck could get 8 hours of battery.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's so again, I absolutely prefer to be in a scenario where I own the game is downloaded natively, I'm playing it on a television and things like that. But as a backup scenario, and obviously too, the biggest downfall being if you don't have 5 gigahertz internet, this is not going to work for you. So obviously your internet speed is very important. But if you do, and you want to be able to continue a game on handheld mode, obviously the saves sync through Steam as well. So all of that works flawlessly. It's like you'll pick up right where you left off on your PC when you jump back on it. It's an incredible additional feature, I feel. Mm-hmm. So obviously I've said this before. I would never want gaming to go completely cloud. I do like consoles. I like physical editions, all that stuff. But as an option, it's one hell of an option. Incredible option.
Yeah, it's something I'm definitely going to be exploring more in the future, you know, with these hotels I keep staying in, or just the flights as well.
Yes.
The fact that on these flights now I can get pretty decent internet. I would love to test out to see like what kind of capabilities I could do through the cloud, because a lot of times that's the hardest part, is that I can play my games, but if for example, battery life alone, my Japan flight is 14 hours. I bring my Steam Deck. If it's not plugged in and I play a game that's demanding, that's 2-hour battery life.
Yep.
Extending that to 8 hours is a lifesaver on a long flight like that. So that is definitely something I think I want to test out in the future. So we're definitely going to be talking about cloud gaming more so on this podcast, as I am going to be dipping my toes into it. And of course, Chugs has been doing so with both the Portal and Xbox as well as the Steam Deck. So we will definitely be talking more about this. If this is a thing that interests you or you have experience on it, go to youtube.com/AEW Games in the comments down below and let us know what you think about cloud gaming. And if you have any services you would suggest for us as well. That's not it for our podcast, because, of course, right after the break, we will be doing the producer's quiz, and we will be talking about the news of the week right after this.
And welcome back to episode 101 with myself and Evil Uno here with the All Elite Arcade podcast. Now, before we jump into the news, we, of course, have the producer's quiz, which, once again, our producers were kind enough to send me and Uno 3 questions. We both give our guess, we both give our answers, and then at the very end of today's episode, we find out who was right and who was wrong. And Uno, before we get started, we do have to make a little adjustment.
We
from
do.
Episode 100. So, actually, there was a little bit of a mistake with the answers for episode 100's producer's quiz. The final question, I believe, before we got to the breaker, was something about a Pokemon smashing mountains and things like that. I guessed Tyranitar, but the correct answer was Steelix. But our producers were kind enough to let us know that that was a mistake. The actual correct answer was Tyranitar, which means we would have gone to the tiebreaker, and I believe I won the tiebreaker.
Correct.
So, the updated score now, still Uno in the lead with 6 points, but old Chugs has 5 points now. So there's a potential to tie this bad boy up today. So who knows? But Uno, you ready to jump in?
I am ready.
Okay, here we go. Question 1 of the producer's quiz. When Midway first pitched NBA Jam to the NBA, the league immediately passed on the idea. What was the NBA's main concern? A, they thought the violence would make the NBA look more like professional wrestling than a legitimate sport. B, they worried arcade machines would enable underground gambling on matches. C, they worried star players would complain if their in-game ratings were too low or if their in-game characters performed poorly. Or D, they associated arcades with sketchy places like bars and strip clubs. Oh, man. I have no idea.
That answer for C is very pro wrestling, because I know every time the pro wrestling results come out, people are like, what do you mean I'm an 82 out of 100?
Right.
I have no idea here.
I have no idea either. And you know what? Speaking of pro wrestling, I'm just going to guess it. I'm going to guess A.
I'm going to go B. I don't know.
Okay.
I genuinely do not know this one. This could be anything.
I have no idea. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is a complete shot in the dark. Okay, all right. I'm gonna guess A with the violence and wrestling, and Uno, you're gonna guess B with the underground gambling.
Yes.
Okay, I am so excited to see the answer to this. I have no idea. Okay, question 2. Which of the following correctly matches a Silent Hill level with the 1990s movie that directly inspired its architecture, layout, and
signage?
Signage. Okay, there we go. And signage. Is it A, the hospital in Terminator 2, B, the school in Kindergarten Cop, C, the sewers in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or D, the amusement park in Jumanji? Ooh.
I don't know if I'm right about this, but for whatever reason, I think it's B, Kindergarten Cop, and the school.
It is. Okay. Because I'm also guessing B.
Okay.
It 100%. If this is not B, the Kindergarten Cop school, my mind's going to be blown.
Yeah.
You're correct. I'm also going to guess B, the school in Kindergarten Cop. Yes. Okay. Question 3. Which game featured the first playable villain in a video game? Is it A, Mortal Kombat in the arcade, B, Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins on the Game Boy, C, Texas Chainsaw Massacre on the Atari 2600, or D, Snoopy and the Red Baron on the Atari 2600? I am going to guess C, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Atari 2600.
So the only one, B, I don't think you play as Wario in it in 6 Golden Coins.
I don't think you do.
No.
I think you play as Big. I think Super Mario Land 3
you do,
is
yes.
the Wario. Yeah.
And then Mortal Kombat, I feel, is the oldest of them all. I'm gonna go D, because the only way I can win this is if we have different answers. And so I'm gonna take a wild guess and say I don't even know who the villain in a Snoopy game would be. Maybe the Red Baron, I assume. I'm gonna go D, Snoopy and the Red Baron.
Glad you picked that, because I'm thinking that one seems like such an outlier.
Yes.
That there's a good chance it's going to be correct.
That's what I'm going for.
Yeah. And that was a good guess. But all right, there you have it. That is the producer quiz for this week. Once again, stay tuned at the very end of today's episode, and we will go over who was correct, who was incorrect. We'll learn a little video game history, which is great. This is a big one this week. But also, before we get into that much later in today's episode, we have some news we have to go over.
Yes, we have not a huge week of news. We're actually picking some news from last week, because last week we took a extra segment to answer some questions. We did our first ever live episode. If you didn't listen to episode 100, we did it live on Twitch, where there's a double dose of the arcade mailbag, so do check that out. So there are some news pieces I do want to bring back from last week, and one that actually extends into this one. First, I'd like to start off by talking about Highguard. Highguard is officially closing its servers in what I believe is a month and a half since its release. This is not the first time this has happened, but this is the first time I think a game of such high caliber. Before this was Concord was the one that got 3 weeks out, got canceled. Yes.
Concord was very quickly. Yeah.
And somebody referred to this as this took 2.5 Concords to cancel. But Highguard is the video game that ended the last summer game. Oh, no, wait, sorry.
The Game Awards.
The Game Awards. Yeah. It wasn't the Summer Game Awards.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people viewed this game as being a very big game. If it ends the Game Awards, it's likely to be a game that they have a lot of weight behind, and I think that's part of why it got canceled as well. While it did seem like people enjoyed this game, the player base did not stick around very much. So and then this is probably on cost of servers. If you're not going to meet up to your player base a month out, I don't think you're going to meet your player base 5-6 months out. It would take a heck of a roadmap to get people that involved. But they are now officially sunsetting the servers for this, which would mean this game is no longer playable. One of those, it's such a weird situations because the game is theoretically accessible to purchase. Those games are still out there, much like Concord was still out there, but it is impossible to play now because the servers have been cut down. So we're now getting to, when we were kids, there are games that would disappear off the face of the planet, and that's just because not enough of those games were out there. Now games are disappearing off the face of the planet, not because a million people didn't buy them, because Highguard did sell a decent amount at first, but just because no one is actively playing it, everyone just loses access to that game, which is such an insane thing. Historians later on, when it comes to video games, are going to talk about preservation of video games, and we're going to have so many online games that will just never see the light of day again. I think to me, this is a clear sign that we're starting to get too much bloat when it comes to these multiplayer games. I think people have found their games they want. It is very hard to try a new IP in this genre, especially if you're going to assume that it's going to have such a high player base. It's unfortunate because this is a game that did look very good.
It's very unfortunate, especially it being from people who worked on Titanfall and Apex Legends. Like the movement looked really, really cool. But yeah, the live service multiplayer games are in such a weird spot. And I'm not saying this is necessarily the case, but first and foremost, it's so sad knowing that you could buy a game, you could enjoy a game, and like you said, Uno, based on the player base, that game could disappear and you could never play it again. Again, not saying this is what happened, but I wonder how many people, especially based on how, the reception after it being the main event of the Game Awards, which I think generally people were way too hard on the game. I wonder how many people were like, oh, maybe I'll buy that. But then also people being like, I'm not going to spend $60, $70 on this game or whatever, because it's just going to disappear in month or whatever. And actually, I shouldn't say, I don't know if Highguard was actually charging. I don't know if it was a free to play game or if
I believe it was like $30 or $40. I can verify that right now.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, that sounds about right. But it's a bummer. Especially, I like people to have the option to play whatever it is that they want to play. And I guess that's the risk of a lot of these games that pop up here, where you hope that you don't put a lot of time, it's definitely not a lot of money, into something that could disappear in the blink of an eye. So this is a massive bummer. The game looked fun. The game, I didn't try it, but it did look fun.
So this was a free-to-play game. So it did come out free-to-play on January 26th, and almost 2 months later, it got canceled.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's way different then. Yeah, it being free-to-play is much better. So yeah, thank you. I wasn't sure how much that cost or if it cost anything. So, but yeah, just a bummer. And like you said too, I love video game preservation. You love video game preservation. So many people who love games so much love preservation. So it's always sad to see when a game pops up there, and there was a group of people that really enjoyed playing it.
For sure.
So just a bummer.
And it sucks for like everyone that worked on it, all the artists, all the developers and stuff. Like that's a project that you probably
such a talented group.
Yeah, you probably sink in 6 years of your life only to see that it only gets a shelf life of a month and a half, and that's quite sad. I don't know. Yeah. I don't think this will not be the last of these games this happens to. I think we're going to see more of them. We're seeing more and more cancellations of games in general, but to see one get canceled quickly after its release, it's almost even sadder than just seeing it canceled early in its development. But yes, odd news piece, because that was a game that did get a lot of attention coming out of the Game Awards, and it is now getting a lot of attention on the other end of things. Other major news piece I want to talk about this week is Project Helix. That Xbox has come out and said they are working on a new hardware, a new console. It will be the PC console hybrid that they had been essentially teasing / rumored for a little while, but they came out and they said that it is officially called Project Helix. And just recently, GDC just happened, which is Games Developer Conference, and they actually got to talk a little bit about Helix as well. Chugs, you ended up watching some of this.
Yeah. So actually, I got to read a couple of articles about it too, because I was very fascinated to know that Xbox came out and talked about Project Helix and what the plan is going forward. It didn't go into too much detail other than the fact that they did, of course, confirm that this is going to be a console PC hybrid. They talked a lot about ray tracing. Ray tracing was a big thing about how they want to make the games look as good as humanly possible, which, of course, when you advance in a generation, that is the game plan, to make games look better, which is still hard for me to process how video games are going to look better than they do now. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around it. But yeah, they seemed very, very focused on performance, but obviously fidelity as well, which is very cool. I know Xbox as a whole has been talking about their backwards compatibility or bringing back some old titles as well, which is really, really cool. So this is the other major note was I think they did mention that they're planning to start releasing some dev kits for developers in 2027 for Project Helix, which to me tells me and most people who would read this that we're probably not getting Project Helix or this new Xbox console the earliest until 2028, maybe even 29, which does kind of line up too with the rumored PlayStation 6 as well. So I'm going to be very curious to see if those consoles end up releasing around the same time, or if Xbox is going to try to get in earlier. I'm also curious, again, this has not been said whatsoever, but with and this is kind of off topic, but with PlayStation saying they're not going to release some of their first party titles on PC anymore, making it even more exclusive, obviously Nintendo being very exclusive too. I'm wondering if at some point they're going to start making their titles exclusive again. I'm so curious to see. I guess we'll have to wait and see to see how things go down. But the announcement for this and Project Helix, and just knowing that Xbox is working on another piece of hardware that they seem really excited about has me really excited. I always want Microsoft. I always want Xbox to be in the console space, if you will. So I was glad to hear that they're working on it, and they seem very confident about it. Seems like it's going to be a premium console PC hybrid.
I wouldn't be surprised that, would bring back on your subject of first party being exclusive to Xbox. I would not be surprised if they move into that direction in the future. Sony obviously is pulling back on some of their IP games for PC. Nintendo was never going to release it anywhere else. That's just how they operate. But with Valve, I think, entering the console market as well, and Xbox entering the handheld market, I think it would only make sense for them to try and keep some exclusive to themselves, or at least do a time-based release. Because I think they're entering a pretty volatile market. If they're going to be positioning themselves as the PC console hybrid, then they're in direct conflict with what Valve is doing as well. So I think, and a lot of Microsoft games are available on Steam platforms, if not all of them. I cannot imagine a future where they don't try to pull back on that a little bit, like Fable, whatever next Halo is going to be, whatever their big projects are. And they have disclosed that they are going to be coming back with some iconic games from the past in remakes and also new versions. There will be new ones released this year. So I'd be curious to see if they pull back and make more things exclusive. I think they kind of need to. I do enjoy a console I do enjoy Microsoft being very confident in releasing their stuff everywhere and spreading out their shot. But realistically, if they're the only ones to do it, it's going to kind of muddy the waters on why would I buy an Xbox if I could just buy a Steam Deck. And that becomes direct competition, not only with all the other consoles, but that becomes direct competition with the one console that can do what your console can do as well. So yeah, I think you're right. I think in the future they will do some exclusives for sure, but I guess we will see. We're still a few years away, and but it is exciting to know that we're off to the next generation of consoles is just around the corner.
It is, and I'm so curious, going off of what you were saying too, with Xbox is in such an interesting position because there are still a large amount of gamers that look at console gaming as like their platform. Yes. That's what they play. Like maybe PC gaming is too intimidating, or they don't fully understand it. Obviously, Valve has done an incredible job making PC gaming more accessible to more and more people. But with Microsoft looking at it that way, maybe they're thinking, yeah, you'll be able to play both on console and on PC, but we know Xbox players are going to want to play their stuff on console. It's going to be really interesting. Normally, again, you want people to be able to play as many games as possible, but generally speaking, I think console platforms having exclusives is a positive. It's been nothing but a positive for Sony. It's been nothing but a positive for Nintendo. And if Xbox and Steam are kind of releasing their games on the same platform, who knows? Hopefully it's good for the Steam machine, and hopefully it's good for this next Xbox console, this Project Helix. But yeah, like you said, it'll be interesting to see the interaction between the Xbox and the Steam machine.
Now, finally, I have a last piece of news that I'm not quite sure what to think about, but I do think we do have to discuss it. Sony is currently testing something that is, I would say, publicly not being viewed very well, but I'm curious to have the discussion about it. Sony is currently testing dynamic pricing on the PlayStation Store. Now, what that means is essentially, if I'm going to refer to YouTube in this instance, but a lot of times there is what is called A/B testing, which is essentially if you look at YouTube, for example, you grab a thumbnail, that's your A thumbnail, and you grab your B thumbnail, and it will switch them around depending on users to see and test which one does best for the video. They are doing this with video game pricing. So they're currently testing this out in the US and Europe market, and they have been testing it now for about 4 months. The way this works, essentially, and I may not be, do ignore the numbers that I'm about to say, but this is how they're testing it. Essentially, looking at the EU market, a full-blown game, they will be charging Spider-Man 2 $79.99. That is the regular price for that video game for most people, which is quite expensive in Europe. But they'll occasionally offer it for $69.99 without disclosing that it is cheaper to different users. And I don't know if that is them trying to figure out what the pricing dynamic of a video game should be, or if it is them. I'm not quite sure. This is them trying to make more money, but I do not know if it's them being like, are we charging too much for video games or are we not? When you look at the US and look at discounted video games, Helldivers 2, which would be regularly $39.99, they'll occasionally remove, instead of like the 10% that they've been removing on the UK, they'll remove 27% off and make these games $28.99 in the US to see if they sell more. Now, I don't know what the approach on this is. So it's not like they are saying they are being discounted on sales. They are just quite literally being offered a lower price on the store. It's still quite early, and I'm still not entirely sure what the goal of this is. But the US had 189 games that they played with this on the US side, with about 190 of those games in Europe as well. The discounts in Europe are about 17% of full price, which is crazy because Europe is already paying so much more for the video games that the US is. And the US, they've been changing them from 27% off. It is, I'm not entirely sure what to think about this. It sounds good when you think about them charging less for video games, but then when you take into consideration some people are still paying full price when an occasional, like a test, is selling them for cheaper. I'm not sure what that will do for pricing in video games in the future. And I'm not even quite sure what the goal of this A/B testing is other than to sell more games. But I just thought we should discuss it because I think this is a future we're going to see more of, because this is a thing that is being approached on the Apple Store, on different places as well. I think this is just a sign of the times for sure.
Yeah. I'm with you too, where I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around it and figure out exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, Uno, they're obviously trying to make money. Sure. But I'm curious too, are they paying attention to statistically, like if an area sees that a game is on sale, are there a lot more impulse buys because they're like, ooh, I can save $15 or whatever it is to try to sell more copies of games? I'm not sure. It's a very interesting topic that I'm curious to see if Sony still dives into and experiments with more and more, which I'm sure they will. But yeah, very interesting. Dynamic pricing. I never in a million years thought that'd be a thing we'd be talking about.
No, not at all. I thought just the fact that I know that pricing is different in every country is already crazy enough of a concept to me. But the fact that you could be, my city and your city can both be in the Northeast, but your city might have a different pricing just because they decided to see how I don't even understand I guess I don't understand what the goal of this is beyond making money. I just mean on a user basis, how is this displayed? And I guess it's so quiet too of it, because I'll never know. You'll have it for a percentage off. That's the thing, right?
Right.
I'm very curious to see the results of this thing.
Me too. And the only thing I can think is them wondering if for, let's say, a week that the game is on sale in a certain city or in a certain area, are there significantly more buys?
Yeah.
I don't know. No.
Well,
I'm excited to keep my eyes on this.
Yeah, for sure. I hope we get results of this publicly, or at least some people follow up on it, because a smarter person needs to give me a summary of this for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not an economist or anything, or really, I know nothing about accounting or money whatsoever. So hopefully someone who is more serious about this can tell us in the comments down below what this means for the entirety of the gaming world in the future. We'll be keeping our ears to the ground on this one. We'll definitely be talking about this in the future. Our episode does not end, though, because post this, we're finally going to open up the arcade mailbag. That's right, your questions we will be answering right after this. And we're back. It is finally time for our favorite segment of the show. That is the arcade mailbag, brought to you by our good friends at upperdeck.com. Of course, Upper Deck has provided us with some fantastic cards. And for once, we actually do have the AEW SP Signature Edition. That's right. It is here. It features Mercedes Moné, Orange Cassidy, Kenny Omega, and many more. It's packed with rare hits, stunning parallels, collector heat, and this set delivers the energy of the ring straight to your hands. Available now at your local hobby shop. Check the link in the notes to find one near you, and don't miss the pull of the year. We actually just opened one up. They typically get a signed edition of a card every single time. There are 3 cards in the pack. Here we go. 3 cards coming up. Coming up first, we've got this gorgeous Kevin Knight.
Oh, nice.
Look at that. Look at that one. Second up, we've got 1 of 50. It is a Beast Mortos card. There you go.
1 of 50. Let's go.
1 of 50. That's the 49th of 50. The Kevin Knight one was 1 of 249. So these are already rare to begin with. And quite possibly the biggest pull I could grab. This is an autographed Mercedes Moné card.
Wow.
That is right. Her autograph directly on the card here. Quite rare. I don't know. I'm not even sure how many is this one. But obviously, when you get the SP Signature Edition, you get some big pulls, and a big pull for today for Evil Uno. Go to your local hobby shop or check the link down below so that you can find your Upper Deck cards. Thank you to Upper Deck, as always, for supporting the podcast. We've got a handful of questions today. If you want your questions answered, go to tbs.com/arcade mailbag. We've got 2 in the mailbox today.
Yes. We've got two great questions today. And the first question from Brad is actually a two-parter. So, Brad, thank you very much for the question. Brad says, hey, guys, thanks for making my Tuesday, used to be Monday, commute to work a lot better. Oh, thanks for listening. I have two quick questions for you. First, how did you first get the idea to start streaming playing video games regularly? Chugs, you were on Austin Creed's show a few years ago, and that was the first time I discovered that you were a huge video game fan. Did the idea to become a streamer begin to develop from that, or was it something different? Uno, how did you first start? Second, I think we can all agree that Resident Evil Requiem is fantastic. Yep, double thumbs up. In this game, the zombies try to carry out human duties after they've mutated, which makes for some hilarious observations. My favorite one so far is seeing a zombified doctor and nurse standing together at the top of the stairs trying to discuss a patient, but all they're able to do is blurt out a few words to each other, sway back and forth, and stare awkwardly. Do you have a favorite zombie trying to do a human thing moment so far? Thanks, guys. Chugs, you've been looking dapper, and the orange glasses on stream lately, the fashion police would be proud.
Yeah.
Brad, thank you very much for the question. Thanks for the compliment on my special glasses for when I stream. And most importantly, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. But to answer your question, first I'm going to start with the streaming question, which these are awesome questions, by the way. So I have been a video game fan my entire life, but when I became like a hardcore gamer, like really obsessed with it was back in 2015, and I had thought about the idea of streaming for quite some time. It was one of those things where I thought, man, it'd be really cool to get into, but I was so intimidated by it. Like I was not tech savvy. I didn't understand Streamlabs OBS and all the things I needed to do to be able to get a streaming setup ready to go. And I had started collecting stuff like a webcam and lights and a capture card and all that stuff, but I still hadn't made the jump yet. And Austin Creed was someone who was incredibly encouraging about me doing that. Another one was a good friend of mine, Graham Pooh Bear, who is a big streamer as well. And he ended up getting a new PC, like a brand new souped up PC. And he was kind enough to say, hey, my old streaming PC, I'm either going to throw it out or send it to you, which was incredible. Because at the time I had an Alienware laptop that was great, but his PC was going to be much more appropriate for a streaming setup. But when I finally made the decision was actually at the start of the pandemic. At that point, when we were all like cooped up in our houses with nothing to really do, at that point I was thinking, man, I have no excuse anymore. Like I need to start streaming. I want to share my passion and my love for gaming with other people. That's kind of how it all started. I wanted an excuse to like nerd out about video games and talk to other people about video games on Twitch. So I absolutely love it. And again, I'm glad you brought up Austin Creed because another shout out to him. He spent 5 hours with me on a Discord call, 5 hours explaining everything I needed to do to get Streamlabs OBS set up, to get my scenes all set up, my camera, adjusting lighting. At the time I had a green screen, so adjusting my green screen background. Like he was so generous with his time. He's one of my best friends, so I love him dearly. And if it wasn't for him or for Grand Pooh Bear, I don't think I'd be streaming. But yep, once the pandemic started, I said I have no excuse. I got to learn how to do this. And now the rest is history. I say it all the time on my streams, but I'm going to be old man Chugs still streaming. I love it so much. I'm not going to stop until I can't do it anymore. So yeah, love it dearly. That's kind of how I got started. And then the second part of the question, man, there's so many incredible zombies in Resident Evil Requiem. But the one that sticks out to me still is the zombie who walks around and needs to turn the lights off is just hilarious to me. I love that you can kite him to certain places if you turn a light on and then walk away and he comes stumbling over to turn the lights off. I know that one was shown in trailers, and that one's actually pretty early on within Resident Evil Requiem as well. There's so many good ones, but that one to me, I still get such a kick out of.
Me on my end, I've been I've been a video game fan my whole life, much like Chugs. But back in 2010, I actually started Twitch streaming, and I had a YouTube channel called The Nerd Slam. And I made a lot of video game content. It would be like 4-player video games amongst wrestlers. I made a lot of video game reviews. At the time, I was pretty into the video game indie scene, which was like blossoming at the time. And so almost every day I would Twitch stream early in the morning playing a brand new indie game. And I did this for several years. until just recently during COVID times. I had stopped for, I think I did 3 years of streaming, and then I had stopped for a little while. And then during COVID times, I felt like, well, I have no other reason I am at home. I should, considering how much I play video games, I should start streaming. And I've been pretty consistent since then. I've been very happy with it. But I do want to do a little shout out also to Austin Creed, because when I restarted doing YouTube and Twitch content, he was the king of the stuff. And he was so accessible to me. Many calls about how I should do things, what audiences were into at the time. He was extremely helpful with the relaunch of my Twitch and YouTube stuff during the COVID times. And so shout out to him. Still a great friend, still a great person. And then when it comes to the zombies, I love the light one. I also, I cannot remember half of what the dialogue is from some of the zombies, but I do enjoy that, like, no matter what the zombie, they almost have the tool of their trade. There's a mechanic with a wrench at one point. There are police officers you'll see at some point that do definitely say some things that are from previous games as well. So I will say I think the police officers are one of the interesting part of that game, and I'm excited to see what they will do with Resident Evil 10 as well. Will they continue forward with zombies with like a little more intelligence? I think that seems to be like the growth of what is going on. So yeah, great question, Brad. Thank you so much.
Yeah, great question. Also, a shout out to the singing zombies who are just belting with their voices, just singing beautiful songs. Shout out to those zombies as well. There's so many good ones. And last question for today is from Hunter. Hunter, thank you for the question. Hunter says, "Hey, Uno and Chugs, been listening since episode 1, and I look forward to the show every week." Thank you, Hunter. I recently got the deluxe edition of UFO 50 for the Switch, published by Fangamer. It comes with a guide to all the games, maps, and other goodies. It's one of the best physical deluxe editions of a game I've ever owned. My question is, do either of you collect deluxe physical editions of games? And if so, what are your favorites? Hunter, great question. Also, that UFO 50 deluxe edition sounds absolutely awesome. So Hunter, actually a little bit lately, I've been slacking on collecting deluxe editions of games. I've been very guilty digitally downloading a lot of games, but I do have a pretty solid collection of games and a few deluxe editions as well. And I want to make sure I'm in the process of collecting as many different consoles in box as I can. So I also want to get to a point where I'm collecting as many different physical games as well, and that includes deluxe editions for games that I really enjoy. Some that stand out to me is I have the Resident Evil Village Deluxe Edition, which is really, really cool, and it came with a figure as well, which was really awesome. I have a Cyberpunk 2077 Deluxe Edition as well, which also comes with a really, really cool figure. This one didn't come with any figures because I think there was an even bigger one, but Final Fantasy VII is incredibly important to me. So I got my hands on a deluxe edition of Final Fantasy VII Remake, which came with this really, really cool art book and a really, really cool cover as well. I do want to make sure I get my hands on the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth deluxe edition as well. And I'm also assuming that after Part 3 comes out, probably a few years after that, or maybe shortly after that, they're going to release this giant deluxe edition with all 3 games, which would just be the best. I definitely can't wait to get my hands on that. But yeah, those are the few that kind of stick out to me. The Resident Evil Village and the Cyberpunk were kind of the big ones with figures that I really like. But now, Hunter, you're making me want to collect more digital or more deluxe editions of games that I really love, because there's so many cool collections out there.
See, on my end, very similar. Fangamer has released a lot of indie games in boxed editions, being the only physical versions of it. So did limited run games. And back to when I was talking about my Nerd Slam days from over a decade ago, I did a lot more of convention runs back then. I did a lot more purchasing of collector editions of things. So I have a few collector editions of a lot of indie games, be it Super Meat Boy, Fez. I've got Nuclear Throne, and so I have their boxed editions. Some of the only physical copies that came out. It usually comes in with like an art book, extra pieces, some pins, and then usually instead of a physical disc, they have a USB drive with it built in. So I have a lot of those, but unfortunately, I'm not much of a physical collector nowadays anymore. Just with so much movement in my life as all times. It is very hard to have a room full of stuff move around countries. And so I have bought a lot less things recently, but I am still a big fan of them, especially the collect. Like, I would have killed to have the new Resident Evil Collector's Edition. I just don't know what I would do with it. I just think those are very cool. And if I had more of a man cave to display all of this stuff, I think I would be more into it. I know Chugs definitely enjoys it.
I love it. I love to be able to have a spot where I'm like, okay, this is going to be my spot. So I'm really, really going to start, building my game cave. But by the way, I'm convinced, Uno, that that's going to be probably a lifelong thing where I'm like, I'm still, Uno, trying to like organize and put stuff on display. I'm really taking my time and trying to enjoy it. But it's going to be a process that probably just goes on forever.
Exactly.
I'm guessing. So, yeah.
And that's the issue with collecting. Right?
Right.
Thank you so much for the question. And thank you to everyone else that has sent their question in as well. If you want your questions answered, go to tbs.com/arcade mailbag. We're almost on our episode, but I think it is time to see the answer to the producer's quiz. 6-5 for Evil Uno. This could be a tight one.
This is a big one. So, all right.
I'm scrolling.
I will read the answers. I'm going to scroll. I'm scrolling right now.
All right.
Okay. All right. Question 1. When Midway first pitched NBA Jam to the NBA, the league immediately passed on the idea. What was the NBA's main concern? I guessed A, they thought the violence would make NBA look more like pro wrestling. And Uno, you guessed B, they worried arcade machines would enable underground gambling on matches. Well, we were both wrong. The correct answer was D. They associated arcades with sketchy places like bars and strip clubs. The NBA had licensed home console games before, but never coin-operated arcade cabinets. League executives viewed arcades as venues with a bad reputation and didn't want the NBA brand associated with them. Oh, come, arcades are awesome. Arcades are amazing.
Yeah,
NBA.
Seriously.
Yeah. But all right. So both of us wrong on that one. But again, very interesting video game history. Question 2 was, scrolling back up. Which of the following correctly matches a Silent Hill level with the 1990s movie that directly inspired its architecture, layout, and man, why can't I say this word? What is this word?
Signage.
Signage. That's ridiculous. Signage. What a test this is. We both guessed B, school, kindergarten cop, and you're darn right, we were correct. B, school, kindergarten cop. To mess with that normal American town vibe, director Kichiro Toyama literally lifted the school's layout and posters straight from the 1990 comedy Kindergarten Cop. Toyama never explicitly stated why he chose Kindergarten Cop as an influence, but since the majority of the movie took place inside of a stereotypical 90s school, the devs must have had a goldmine of material to work with. So, all right, so 1 point each. This is a big one. Question 3. Which game featured the first playable villain in a video game? I guessed C, Texas Chainsaw Massacre on the Atari 2600. Uno guessed D, Snoopy and the Red Baron on the Atari 2600. And the correct answer was C, Texas Chainsaw Massacre on the Atari 2600. According to Guinness World Records, Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the Atari 2600 in 1983 holds the distinction of the game that features the first playable villain. Players assumed the role of the film's heinous villain, Leatherface, as they underwent a murder spree. The game proved so controversial that very few shops stocked it, and it sold very little.
Well, there you have it.
This was a big week. This was a tiebreaker week. We now have 6 points, Evil Uno, and 6 points, Chugs, baby.
That's right. Anyone could win this. That just shows you everyone. We were at a point where we thought I was running away with it, but not the case. We are now tied even 6-6, and there will be more producers quiz in the future, including next week's episode. If you want to listen to our next week's episode, make sure you hit that subscription button or that follow button. We're on YouTube, noon Eastern Standard Time on Tuesdays. That is the new day for our podcast at noon. Make sure you check it out, youtube.com/AEW Games. But anywhere else podcasts are met, you can have us early in the morning, Tuesday mornings. Get us in your ears. Make sure you hit that follow button. We're all on Twitch. I'm at twitch.tv/eviluno. The Chugs is at twitch.tv/thechugs. If you want to watch us play some video games, we're on there a few times a week. The Chugs is currently playing Resident Evil Requiem. Go check it out. He is at the best part of the game right now. I'm just letting you know. That is it for us for this week. It's been a big week of video games, and the weeks of video games do not stop because next week will be a big one as well. Thank you very much for listening, as always, and supporting us. We will see you next week. Have a good time, and bye-bye.